Manx Radio Sport.
Very good evening. Welcome to Friday Sport Preview. Rob Pritchard and the team with you once again to take a look at the sporting action on the Isle of Man and beyond this weekend. So, coming up tonight, the final push for Railway Cup qualification in Manx football this Saturday. We'll also hear from one of those teams in contention for a spot. FC Isle of Man are back on home soil this weekend, hoping to match their longest ever winning streak on Saturday night. A tough test awaits for Unbeaten Manx pro boxer Mathew Rennie in Liverpool this evening. Douglas have a difficult task on the road, and Vagabonds host Burnley in rugby tomorrow. And several titles and relegations could be decided in the penultimate week of the mixed season in hockey. That's all to come this evening. Very good evening. Welcome once again to Friday Sport Preview here on Manx Radio. Rob Pritchard and our team of correspondents and guests here with you once again over the next hour to take a look at all the football, rugby, hockey action and more coming up on the Isle of Man and further afield this weekend. Turning our attention first, as we usually do, to what looks to be another busy weekend in terms of football, and particularly in the Isle of Man fixtures. All eyes on the Railway Cup qualification battle and also the battle in the ongoing Division 2 title race in these early stages of the season. To go through everything, as ever, with us is our football correspondent Tony Mepham. Tony, good evening.
Good evening, Rob, and as you rightly say, there's a lot to come off tomorrow, isn't there? A lot of decisions as well with this Plum's Property Railway Cup, so we'll see how that goes. Weather, well, a little bit of rain coming down, Rob, but hopefully no panic stations, and we'll get a full league programme on once again.
Indeed. Let's dive straight in. Canada Life Men's Premier League tomorrow will start there. All games bar one 2 o'clock kickoffs. We'll get to the earlier kickoff in a few moments because a lot of the spotlight will be on the battle for those Railway Cup spots. Of course, this is the last chance that teams still in contention have to get a place there, and 3 teams mathematically could still be 4 teams, I should say, mathematically in with a shout of the 2 remaining spots. Peel and Ayr United already qualified, but Foxdale in third, who don't have a game, they've already played up to the halfway point. Corinthians in 4th, Laxey in 5th and St Mary's in 6th, all in contention. And Tony, before we get into the fixtures, I've done the maths this afternoon as to how this could work. So, for Foxdale, they would drop out of contention if both Corinthians and Laxey win. Yep. They would stay in the Railway Cup and will qualify if both lose. They would also stay in if either Corinthians or Laxey lose, even if another of those wins. And they would also stay in the Railway Cup spots if both Corinthians and Laxey draw, because they would go above Laxey on goal difference. For Corinthians in 4th, a win or a draw would book them a place. If they were to lose, they'd also need Laxey to lose as well. For Laxey, a win would guarantee them a spot as well. A draw, they would need Corinthians to lose. And if they lose, if they come away empty-handed against Onken, they're out of it altogether. And for St Mary's, I think they've got the biggest job on their hands mathematically here. They have to win, no matter what happens elsewhere. And if they were to win, they're up against Corinthians. Just as a reminder, they'd have to win by 5 goals or more.
It's very good, that, Rob, isn't it? And you didn't have that written down neither. That's off the top of your head. No, I'm only joking. No, well done, mate. Spot on, yeah.
I was trying to make sure you couldn't see the notes through the screens in front of us here.
No, that's far too much information there to try and remember that lot. But the important thing is that we'll have a decision tomorrow, that's for sure. And there's all sorts of permutations and big games. Probably the game you're looking at is Corinthians against St Mary's at the Bowl, because there's so much driving on that one. And when you look at St Mary's, the way they've come to it towards the end, they've done ever so well. But that Onken against Laxey game is a game that you just think that Laxey will win. But they're so Jekyll and Hyde, Laxey. You're not 100% that it's going to go well. And Onken, when they're on form, and they can score plenty of goals. So let's have a look at those 2 games first. St Mary's against Corinthians at the Bowl. St Mary's super result last week. When you look at the players that they've got in there now, Harley Jackson, Dan Hattersley, makes them an awful lot stronger. Let's look at the experience of Carl Clark. You've got Frank Jones. Then you just look right the way through at the forward line. Joe Berquist is so quick. He's tricky down that right-hand side. They've got to try and deal with that. And then through the middle, depending on what the squad is, you've got Owen Canepa, Dan Hattersley in there now. He was sub last week, came off the bench, scored 2. I don't think he's going to be sub this week. And that's something that Corinthians are going to have to deal with. But Bevan Colley's back in. Stewie Smith looks fit. Noah Vowles will play on the right-hand side. I'm not too sure if Sam Corkle's come back for this one from Lincoln. He might have been allowed to come back, but it's going to be an absolute humdinger. Great surface to play on. Sorry, boys, I'm going to go for St Mary's just to take it.
We're going to be hearing more from the St Mary's camp in a few minutes' time as well. The other crucial game, Tony, that you've mentioned as well, Laxey at home to Onken. What could we expect maybe from this?
I think you'll expect a disciplined performance by Laxey, because I think Johnny Palmer knows they're so close. They can't slip up, and that's something that Onken have done this season. When you look at people like Joe Walters is in there, they've been able to score goals. Ethan Hawley as well. No Glenn Walker, because Glenn Walker now is away, so they've had to fill in that goalkeeper role. But Johnny's still got a good squad in there. But when you look at Onken, Andy Asbridge has been in great form. You've got Josh Kenyock in there as well. The two Dawson boys, they're a good outfit. And if they hit the notes tomorrow, then you can see Onken doing well. But I'm going to go for Laxey to win.
2 games for Railway Cup qualification, very much in the spotlight, but there are other games elsewhere. Let's take a quick look through them. Russian United versus Union Mills over at Croyt Lowy. Marown, those big first points of the season on the board last week. They've got a tough task at home against second place Peel. St John's United are at home to St George's, and St George's, there was some significant news for them behind the scenes elsewhere earlier this week. And a Northern Derby, because the undefeated league leaders United are away at Ramsey. Tony, what would you reckon from those remaining games in the top flight?
Let's look at the top one first. I'll do it quickly. Russian United against Union Mills. Russian scored 4 goals last week and lost 5-4. So, you can see where the problems are. But certainly Andrew Moody will be looking to try and get 3 points in this. But Union Mills had a right good battle last week against Foxtel. It was a great game to watch. Speaking to Ryan Kelly last night, he was happy with the performance. I'm going to go for Union Mills to win that one. Marown against Peel, you wouldn't bet against them, because we've been talking about the last couple of weeks that Marown were just coming into good form, that 3-0 lead that they had against Ayr United, and now they've got the 3 points on the board. Peel, it all went horribly wrong for them last week. It just didn't go, and I think Marown might be able to capitalise on that, but Peel have 1 or 2 players back in. Thomas Brown will start. You've got St John's against St George's. Sam Brown, very happy with the team that he's got for tomorrow. And with the form of Callum Taggart, that's going to cause St George's a big problem. Go for St John's to win that. Ramsey against Ayr. They were lucky last week, weren't they? Last 2 minutes, Jamie Callister scored that equalising goal, dropped the points, but luckily for them, Peel dropped points. But Ramsey, Dylan Pickles is back in the mix, so if he can score the goals for them, Ramsey might do it, but I'll just go for Ayr. And as we've touched on, I'm going to go for Laxey and St Mary's to win the other 2.
Moving on to Ardern and Druggen Limited Division 2. 4 games tomorrow, all kicking off at 2 o'clock. Douglas High School Old Boys top of the pile at the moment on 25 points. Behind them, it's a meeting of second versus third, because Braddon in second on 19 points, go to Colby in third on 18 points. And Douglas High School Old Boys themselves, they're away at Pulrose United. First off, Tony, just coming to that one between Colby and Braddon, seems a big game towards the top. It feels like if either of them have title ambitions, although it is still a long way to go in the season, it feels like a game that neither side can really afford to drop points on. Would you agree?
I think there's more pressure on Colby. I watched Colby against Old Boys, and I just thought it'd be really tight. Colby could have been 4-0 up in the first 10 minutes, and it didn't happen. They've got great players in there. Carl Hickey, Steve Collister, I can't believe it. He's gone from St Mary's number 1 goalkeeper to a forward that looks like he means the business. So with him and Carl Hickey, they're very, very strong players. They've got to deal with that. You know, the defence has a lot of experience in there, but against Braddon, you know what's going to come. Dan Kinraid is going to cause problems. He's so good down that left-hand side with that foot. He's got Joe Burrows as well, and it's looking sort of really good for them. But I'm going to go for Braddon just to sneak it, but I think this is going to be another real humdinger and plenty of goals in it.
And the other one there, crucially towards the top, Old Boys looking to keep, at the very least, their advantage at the top away at Pulrose United, who have had some positive results this season already. They've
had some really good results, and I think that's credit to everybody down there who've worked so hard. But against Old Boys have really pulled it back together. When you look at the experience, Robbie Ward will be in there, Martin King's available, so that all helps. But you look at the other players, the young players they've got, Rob, they're going to be too strong for them, and that's why Old Boys will take the victory.
And of course, 2 other fixtures in Division 2. Douglas and District at home to Maloo, and Douglas Royal will welcome Governors Athletic.
Yeah, I'll go for Maloo just to sneak the Douglas and District game, because I think Kieran Krippner will score the goals there for the result for them. Douglas Royal against Governors, it's so hard to predict with Douglas Royal gaining so many players from Michael that you just don't know how strong they're going to be. I know Sam Greasley was in the team, but against Governors Athletic, they're physical, they're strong, so they could mix it with them, but I'll just go for Royal.
Taking a look then at the combination leagues, we did have 6 games originally for Canada Life Combination 1, but following the news this week that it was confirmed St George's had withdrawn their combination side from the remainder of the season, there'll now only be 5 fixtures: Union Mills versus Russian United, Corinthians versus St Mary's, Peel versus Moran, Ayr United versus Ramsey, and Onken versus Laxey. Tony.
Union Mills against Russian. The league table doesn't lie, so Russian United right up there, mixing it with sort of Ramsey and Onken as well. So go for Russian to win that. Corinthians against St Mary's. Close battle. It's sort of more experienced St Mary's team against a very young Corinthians team. I'm going to go for Corinthians to win that one. Peel against Moran. Again, this could be pretty equal because Peel brought an awful lot of young players through, but we'll go for Peel. As you rightly say, St George's are withdrawn from the league. Ayr United against Ramsey. Real close game because Ayr have got a good combination side, but I think Ramsey will just have the strength. And Onken against Laxey. I'm going to go with Onken.
Last but certainly not least, on Saturday, 5 games in Ardern and Drug Unlimited Combination 2.
Michael United against Douglas Athletic. I'm going to go for Athletic to win. Braddon against Colby. Colby top of the table. Go with Colby. Jim's against Ramsey Youth Centre and Old Boys. Ramsey Youth Centre to win. Old Boys against Pulrose. Old Boys mean business. Old Boys to win. And Governors Athletic against Douglas and District. I think Governors will just be slightly too strong.
Thanks, Tony. We'll be coming back to you in just a couple of moments, but we're just going to turn our attention back over the next couple of minutes to that big battle for Railway Cup qualification coming up this weekend, and the fact that 2 of those contenders will be facing each other in the early kick-off of the Bowl at 1:45 St Mary's versus Corinthians. We're going to get the views now of someone in the St Mary's camp, a team that impressed at times during last season, and we now need to find out, I suppose, what are their ambitions, maybe, and hopes going into the remainder of the campaign. Delighted to be joined in the studio this evening by first-team coach Paul Guyver. Paul, very good evening.
Evening, you okay?
Very well, thanks. Thank you very much for joining us. And let's go straight into it. St Mary's, it felt a bit like a bit of a slow start this season by St Mary's standards, but a couple of results have picked up, and of course that big statement 4-1 win away at Peel last weekend. What seems to have clicked a little more recently?
Simply just took the challenge last week. This season we've been really good, but just don't take our chances, and we've hit the post, miss empty nets, we've been 1-1 with the keeper and just not clicked. But last week it just clicked in that second half. First half we were a bit poor. Our boss said some words at half time. Also gone in because second half went out there. Harley Jackson sent in the field, started to run the show. Berkey went to the right wing, put some great balls into the box, and chances got snapped up. Frank Jones got just knew where to be to finish a move off, and we could have scored more, to be honest. But probably short of our season at the minute.
Well, actually going into this season as well, you've already mentioned some of the attacking players that have been noticed many a time over the last couple of seasons, like of Joe Burkestow and Canoper, of Adam Adebayo previously. He's been largely in the FC Alaman setup or out with injury more recently. But when you've got experienced players coming back in, the likes of Frank Jones and Dan Hatsley coming into the setup, how does that help the balance of the squad?
I think the young ones look up to him. There's a player also, Ty, the Ginger Pele, I call him. This kid's unreal. You want to see him, his first touch. He's classy. There's him as well. He's only a kid. And Frank Jones, Hatley's not there tomorrow, but Frank Jones is there. You got Sammy Gellin. You know, he's good on the ball. He goes past 2-3 plays. He releases it. Brings other people into play. It's a good little mix between experience and kids who just don't care and just could do anything. If you know what I mean.
From the St Mary's side of things, one of those, in a bit of a different position whereby you play and train basically on the 3G surface, a little like FC Alaman do separately because that's where they play their match days, whereas a lot of the other teams play on traditional grass surfaces. Do you think that's more catering to St Mary's style, playing on the AstroTurf, or is it something that you've all adapted to over time?
Well, we've been there over the years, but I would say it's a flat surface, no bobbles, so it does look. It's probably better than grass, but the pitch down the bowl is a lot bigger than other pitches. So, sometimes the lads do feel it, you can see it, and then sometimes we have to sit in and just weather a couple of storms and then go again. So I think we know how to play on it more than other teams that come to see us, if that makes sense. But it's an advantage. I wouldn't say it's an advantage, really. Sometimes it's a disadvantage because of how big it is.
Just a couple more questions then. Looking to this weekend, of course, and we've already talked about the maths about Railway Cup qualification. A lot of things would have to fall into place from a St Mary's side of things, but do you believe that you can, if other teams do slip up, that you can potentially take advantage if Corinthians aren't at their best this weekend?
Well, Tony knows what I'm like, don't you, mate?
I do, mate.
He knows how optimistic I am about everything that I do. But you know what? Let's just go try win the game, and what'll be will be. We'll just try and get the 3 points if it happens, mega. If it doesn't, we'll go again. try finish top 4 maybe. Learn from what's happened before, because we should be there already. We should have qualified. Mills, first game at home, it Woodwork twice, missed an empty net. They took their chances, we never. Oncombe, we drew 3-3. Again, we could have won it in the last minute of the game, probably the last kick. We didn't take the chance. Ramsey at home. We went down to 10 men with 15 to go at 1-1. With 11 men on the pitch, we could have kicked on and took 3 points, but it's just the story of our season. That's why we're here now, waiting for miracles.
Well, Paul, thanks very much for joining us, and all the best for the rest of the season. Thank you very much indeed. Well, elsewhere, in form and high on confidence right now, FC Isle of Man have the chance to match their best ever winning streak when they return to the bowl in the NWCFL Premier Division tomorrow night. Having won their last 5 on the bounce, the Ravens welcome Burscough to the island on Saturday evening. From a neutral perspective, the encounters between these two sides have been entertaining so far, with 27 goals scored in just 4 meetings between them to date. Looking ahead to this latest clash, I asked FC Isle of Man manager Paul Jones if he'd trade the thrilling scorelines for a steady result to keep his side's good run going.
I think however the 3 points come, I don't mind. I think we're good when the game's quite open. I kind of almost expect Burscough to come and sit in a little bit and make it difficult for us because of where they are in the league and how their form's gone over the last kind of 6 games or so. But yeah, if it's an open game, I think it'll suit us, and if they sit in, I think it'll suit us as well. So no, however it comes on Saturday, I'm fine with it.
They've had a little bit of a break between league games. You're now in a situation where you're getting a full 7 days between matches. Just how beneficial has that been now that you're a couple of weeks into having 1 game a week?
Yeah, I think it's really helpful for everybody, just from a personal life point of view. You've got a game every Saturday, and the week takes on a bit more of a routine than it would do normally. So, for work, personal life, football, I think we're finding a good rhythm at the moment. It means we can work really hard on a Tuesday night, whether that's physically or tactically or just, being together for a couple of hours on a Tuesday. Thursday sessions are short and sharp and really good quality at the moment. So, yeah, we feel like, the Saturday to Saturdays gives us a good flow at the minute, and we're looking forward to it. Not
just the physical condition of players, but just who is physically available as well. In general, how would you say availability is at the moment in the squad?
Very good. I think Ben Wasser's been back training with Laxey this week, so he won't be too far away next week. Adebayo's back from his break for work reasons, and other than that, I think we're pretty good from an injury point of view. We've got pretty much a full squad this weekend. There's one player who's unavailable for the next couple of weeks through work reasons. Simo's back training with us. He came on, obviously, as people will have seen, for Corinthians at the weekend, and that's fantastic to see after all the hard work. And Mikey Williams was down having a little bit of a jog on Tuesday night at training. So yeah, we're at this stage of the season in November, and Mr. Kane and others are talking about how November's a bad month for injuries within football at the minute. Touch wood, and FC Isle of Man, we're in a really good bill of health, and everyone's absolutely champing at the bit to make a contribution to the team. We're in a very good place, both mentally and physically, and confidence levels are really high. Winning helps. Winning the last 5 games on the bounce is great, but we've wins on the bounce a few times this season, so winning breeds small winning. So our aim is to keep that going for as long as we possibly can, and obviously every team we come up against will aim to put a stop to it. But we're in a really good place at the moment, and I hope we can demonstrate that on Saturday against Burscough.
Your opponents this weekend, Burscough, last couple of seasons when you've come up against them, they've maybe had a bit of a challenging season towards the bottom in terms of points wise, but seem to have found quite a steady foundation recently in the division at the moment. So what kind of challenge have they posed in the past that you might expect this time?
It's like any team in this division, if they turn up on the day, anyone can beat anyone. They've got some really good results this season, and then maybe from Dave and Chris's point of view, their manager and assistant, they've not been consistent, and I think that's certainly one of the things we've noticed in our group is the level of consistency that we're getting week after week. And we used to be a team, and I said it to Squires Gate manager after the game, like, I feel for where they're at the minute. You can see they've got some really good moments in games, and they're not quite taking their opportunities, and then a slip of concentration, or they feel a decision doesn't quite go their way, and that's the game over. And it feels like we as a group have moved past that. Hopefully, for the rest of the season, I'm proved right. And Burscough are probably in that place where their manager and team just want a little bit of consistency, and put a string of games together where they're consistent, and then the results will start to come. So I'm sure that's what they'll be hoping for this weekend, and our job is to make sure that doesn't happen. We have to keep driving hard, and now's the time to push harder, not take your foot off the gas and get complacent. So we know every team we're going to play against between now and the end of the season could beat beat us on the day, and we've just got to make sure our levels are as high as possible to make it as hard as possible for them to get some points off us. And I think we're starting to demonstrate that if we're at our levels and we're at 8 out of 10 all over the pitch, more often than not we'll come away with some points. So that's just what we've got to aspire to doing.
Paul Jones, FC Isle of Man manager, ahead of his side's tie against Burscough in the NWCFL Premier Division at the Bowl. Kick-off tomorrow at 6 p.m. If you're not heading down to the Bowl in person, we at Manx Radio have got you covered. Full live match commentary from myself and Tony Mepp on Manx Radio, DAB and AM 1368 from 6 o'clock tomorrow. Love to have you to join us. Well, before we move on to more FC Isle of Man conversation, of course, we did hear just a few moments ago from Paul Guyver on the St Mary's side of things, who has also mentioned he'd just like to get another little bit of a message and a bit of a thank you out there, Paul.
Yeah, to the club was nothing not too long ago when Anthony Dooley, Fran Dooley, Josh Evans, Alabo, these lads have come in, and Megan's done it, Casey, Nay, all they've got together and pulled the club from nowhere to where we are now, and full credit to them for where the club is now, challenging for possible Railway Cup. So big shout out to them for bringing it through, and to show there's clubs out there struggling. There's hope for the clubs, it can happen. Michael have gone a bit downhill, they can do it, same with Royals, and it can happen to other clubs as well. If they go through a bit of a tough time and they hang out, sit together and pull together, and then it does come together with hard work.
Thank you, Paul. Yes, a lot of hard work going in at St Mary's Football Club, and indeed football clubs across the Isle of Man. Well, before we move things on, Tony, just want to quickly get your thoughts on the FC Isle of Man side of things. The good run of form has been continuing. They managed to beat one of their proverbial bogey teams convincingly, Squires Gate away from home last weekend. Paul Jones has talked about there still being this great feeling in the camp. They always feel like they're in games, even if the odds or the stats are against them. Does it seem like there's a different feel around the camp from the outside, from your perspective?
Definitely, Rob. I think the results are showing that. The change of players, new players are coming in and doing an absolute great job. They're scoring plenty of goals. Performances are top-notch. The sort of fitness levels are superb. And credit to them, and really looking forward to tomorrow night's game. I know there's probably a little bit of rain coming in, but there's plenty of cover down there. But let's just hope this great run continues. They're right up there. They're mixing it with the big boys. They're up towards the top of the league. Credit to everyone who's putting a shift in, and let's hope they get another 3 points tomorrow.
Indeed, we'll wait and see. Tony, thank you very much in the meantime.
Manx Radio Sport.
Moving on, in these last few weeks of the calendar year could be a pivotal time in the boxing career of Mathew Rennie. The Manxman, unbeaten in the pro ranks so far with 13 wins and 1 draw, will be involved in his first national title fight next month when he faces Sean Noakes for the English welterweight title at Wembley Arena on the 7th of December. However, before that, Rennie has business to attend to. Tonight, he faces former Olympian Sergei Mbomo in a 4-round contest at the Olympia in Liverpool. Ahead of tonight's clash, he's emphasised that even with a dream fight on the horizon, he won't be complacent this evening against a challenging opponent.
Very important. I can't switch off for a moment, and I have a lively opponent as well to make things even harder. I never get the easy route anyway, and I like it like that. He's naturally a heavier opponent too. He's more around super welterweight and middleweight, where I'm more of a welterweight fighter. So in December, I'm looking at fighting for the welterweight English title, but this opponent's naturally heavier. But as I said, it's one of them where I just have to stay focused, stay switched on, and I mean, a fight's a fight at the end of the day, so you can only make it as easy as you can. I've got a lot of people coming. I probably wouldn't have normally took this fight, but because I had so much support coming, I didn't want to pull out. And to be honest, I think it'll do more good for me than it would not fighting.
You're going to have some great support. How much of that is from the island or from those close to you at the moment?
Yeah, I'm building more of a support in Liverpool. I've got a lot of people travelling down from Widnes area where I'm now training. Kind of building more of a fan base over here. I've always got my loyal supporters that have been here for day one, that come over from the Isle of Man and down from Scotland and even Jersey. I didn't want to let down the people who already paid a lot of money to come watch me. From day one, this is always the goal to reach this spot where I'm at now, and now I've got the chance. I need to deliver, and I need to perform, and then I need to carry that momentum going into the next big fight in December. But this is what people get in, not just boxing, this is what people get into sport for these big occasions, and now I've got mine, I need to take it with both hands.
And I know you've already referenced this, but the fact that you go into this fight, yes, of course, there's that big title fight that you've got in December, but with this in front of you, how important is it that you just stay focused on this for now and don't take anything for granted?
Yeah, that's it, because if I take anything, if I overlook this kid, you know, it could come to a shock, and I don't have that room I can't lose. You know, it could put a massive blip into the December fight. So, and not just that, you know, I can't afford getting any cuts or any injuries. So, listen, I know it's a risky, but if I go in there thinking of all these negative things, then the performance will probably end up being negative. So, at the end of the day, like I said before, it's a fight. So I need to go in there with a positive mindset, do the business, and then we can crack on then for the big one. And that's the one everyone's wanting to be a part of.
If you were to get the result you're looking for on Friday night and get a victory, you know, how much hunger and desire will that fill you going into what could be a very big occasion in December?
That's exactly why I feel like it would be good to have this 4-rounder, because I feel like it just gets you back under the lights again, gives you another feel for it. With the small gloves on and whatnot, and just builds that momentum again. You know, you go back into training on Monday, you'll have a good buzz about you, and I can just carry that momentum into the December time.
That's Isle of Man-born fighter Mathew Rennie, hoping to keep up his unbeaten record in the professional boxing ranks this evening in a 4-round contest against former Olympian and Cameroonian fighter Sergei Ambomo at the Olympia in Liverpool this evening. It's some time since his previous bout. You have to go back to July, the last time he was in fact in the ring, where he extended his unbeaten pro record with a points victory over Ukrainian competitor Mikhailo Sovtus, also in Liverpool, this time at Grand Central Hall. He's also had a bit of change behind the scenes as well. A switch in management for Mathew Rennie in the last couple of months as well. In late October, it was confirmed he was joining Warren Boxing Management from VIP Boxing Promotions, who he had been with for some time. And also with the tonight's bout between Rennie and Ambomo, the exact time of when that particular contest will get underway this evening is still to be confirmed, as we understand. But the evening getting underway very shortly, with a whole card of potential contests on that indeed. So a potentially tricky test there for Mathew Rennie this evening, but all with those eyes on the 7th of December, looking to try and get there in the best way possible to that title fight against Sean Noakes. We're going to be chatting about rugby, hockey after the break here. The news is up next. We'll be back in just a couple of moments.
Manx Radio Sport.
Welcome back to Friday Sport Preview on Manx Radio. The time has just gone 5 minutes past 6. We're going to be taking a look at a double header of Manx Rugby tomorrow. We have Douglas there on the road, looking to continue their good recent form in Regional 2 Northwest. Vagabonds, however, a beleaguered Vagabonds side, looking to just get any points and any positives they can in their tough start to Counties 3 ADM Lancashire Cheshire. They're back on home soil at Ballafletcher. To go through everything as usual, so rugby correspondent Dave Christian. Dave, we'll start off with Douglas, and good recent form, particularly at home, of course. It's now 3 straight victories at home at Portashee, but on the road this week against one of the tougher sides in the Regional 2 Northwest so far this season, it has to be said.
Indeed, and as we've mentioned a number of times here on Friday Sport Preview, it's kind of difficult with the teams home and away. They're just not getting consistency of team selection, and there's a whole host of changes to the Douglas side this week. Some of them forced. I guess there was a couple of knocks from last week's game, but some of them perhaps down to work and family commitments as well, because we know the troubles it is going away. So 2 o'clock tomorrow. 2 out of 3 ain't bad, I guess. In the front row, Ralph Clark and Gihard Vazagi will both be there. Owen Carvin had a trot out for Southern Nomads last week against Ramsey, just to see whether or not he's got over a hamstring injury that's been bothering him really since the start of the season. He's come through that okay. He's going to get the nod in the front row. Outside of that, there's no Bryn Snellgrove at 10. We're going to have Josh Duncan stepping in there. Nathan Robson continuing at 9. He seems to have made the number 9 jersey his own since his move up from Ramsey a few weeks back. There's plenty of pace out in the back line. Douglas will probably want to move it wide and see if they can't push Bowden around a little bit, but it's going to be a struggle for them. Bowden going really well. They've only had that one defeat, and that's against another team up there in the top 5. I think they're 7-1 in terms of results. And that's going to be difficult for Douglas to overcome. They haven't won away from home yet, and I guess that's partly down to the inconsistencies they've had to have with their team selection. Good news for Coach Phil Kringle, though. He hasn't had to put himself on the bench this week. He doesn't like doing that. And you always know when you see Phil on the bench that there's a little bit of a problem there, and he wants some fallback provision up there in his replacements. But aside from that, there is a new name on the bench, Rhys Oliveira. I've been hearing stories of him last weekend. Didn't know where he was going to surface, but apparently he's quite a talented youngster. So we'll wait and see what reports come back from him. About him from Bowden tomorrow. It's a 2 o'clock kickoff if you are over there in Altrincham, Clay Lane, Altrincham, where the game's going to be played. But at the moment, at least on paper, I don't see Douglas coming back with much from this. If they can pick up a bonus point, then fair play. But I think they'll struggle over there.
Well, just to put some stats to what Dave has been saying about the difference between the two sides at the moment, Douglas 8th out of the 12 sides in Regional 2 North West at the moment with 3 wins from their opening 8. Bowden, meanwhile, second and just a point off Furber Waterloo at the top. They've won 7 of their opening 8 games, including 7 bonus points. Douglas themselves have 7 bonus points a little further down the table, Dave. So is that against the quality of opposition that Bowden will provide maybe the best they can hope for, without being disrespectful to Douglas's chances, of course?
Yeah, I mean, when I look at a league table, yeah, you look for the positions, but one of the key stats there is points for and against. And Douglas at the moment are 4 or 5 places below their points difference. Everyone, I think the 3 or 4 teams just above them are all in negatives. Douglas are plus 55, I think, from memory. That suggests that they're a little bit lower maybe than they deserve to be. And we know that a losing bonus point, finishing within 7, it's not as good as a win. Nothing it really is, but it means they're really, really close to their opposition, and there's not that much additional work to be done to change those losses into wins. So, Phil's working with quite a deck of cards down there. The guys are doing okay. Really, when they get that first team out at home, they're as strong as they're ever going to be, and what they need to work on is perhaps getting that out on when they're on the road.
Well, Douglas, here is the starting 15 to take on Bowden, as Dave says, over at Clay Lane in Altrincham. It's in order from 1 to 15. Ralph Clark, Gerhard Verzagi, Owen Carvin, the captain, Blake Snell, Connor Garland, Wilf Hewson, Percy Hampton, Harry Cartwright, Nathan Robson, Josh Duncan, Callum Dentith, Harry Hewson, Charlie Henthorne, Brennan Kelly and Kyle Martin. 3 substitutes for Douglas. Rista Oliveira, as Dave mentioned, along with Blake Everson and Dave Sherwin. Turning our attentions to Vagabonds, and it doesn't get any easier. We keep saying this week after week, it seems, with Vagabonds in County 3 ADM Lancashire Cheshire this season. 8 defeats in their opening 8 games so far and just 2 bonus points on the boards. They are back on home soil at Ballafletcher. They're up against a Burnley side who are 5 places above them at 7th in the County 3 ADM Lancashire Cheshire table. And Dave, this is a Burnley side who, although not challenging toward the top right now, have had some good performances and good numbers on the board to back up what they've got so far.
Yeah, indeed. There's a couple of close ones against the big teams in the league, and when you're picking up losing bonus points against the top guys, as we just said with Douglas, we know that you're not too far away from it. Vaggers, though, struggling a little bit. They're continuing without captain and playmaker Daniel Bomwick. His bang to the head a couple of weeks ago is keeping him out under the concussion protocols. If I remember correctly, I think it's 3 weeks he's got to sit out. Might be 2, though. Not sure, 100% on that. So we're going to have a stand-in, stand-off, to coin a phrase. Matty Williams. Matty can play at scrum half. He can also play in hooker or the back row. So he's quite a versatile player, but he's not your out-and-out 10, and he's certainly not the playmaker that Daniel Bomwick would be. So they're maybe struggling a little bit in the 10 channel. I see they've got Tom Gascoigne on the wing. Tom, arguably the best number 8 they've got, and they're sitting him out on the wing. I don't know whether that's because he's had a knock or they just want a little bit of a pace option out there out wide. But in that game I watched against Bury a couple of weeks ago, Tom was out in the back line, and as soon as he got anywhere near the forwards, I think he got 2 tries in that game. When he got into the forward channels, that's where he was at his best. So makeshift is probably the best way to describe that. New name on the bench for Vagabonds as well, David Keenan. David the Cat was with Ramsey last week against Southern Nomads. He appears to have migrated up to Ballafletcher. Only on the bench at the moment, but I'm sure he'll get a run. And Keenan, a very versatile player. He can play in the back row or most positions in the back line. Great turn of pace on him as well, and he picked up a try in the tail end of that game against Southern Nomads last week, so he's on pretty good shape as well. So fingers crossed for them. We'll be there to cover that one for Saturday Live, but on paper at least, it's going to be a Burnley win.
Dave Christian, our rugby correspondent, thank you very much indeed. And just before we move on, let's take you through that Vagabonds lineup. Numbers 1 to 15 in order are as follows: Joe Lau, the captain, Matthew Rockwell, John Ferguson, Ant Pearson, Aaron Sloan, Gavin Turnbull, Harvey Collister, Matthew Jones, Tom Neeson, Matthew Williams, Tom Randall, Paul Howard, Cal Donnell, Tom Gascoigne and Regan Williams. 3 substitutes for Vagabonds: Lewis Horton Casella, Dave Keenan and Jake Dunsmore. We'll be taking a look at hockey in the next couple of minutes. We'll be back in just a few moments.
Manx Radio Sport.
Turning our attention to hockey, and it's the penultimate weekend we're coming into of the 2024 Mixed League season, and a number of titles and relegations could be decided even with 1 game week to go after this Saturday. Games across the board once again, and plenty to play for across the respective divisions. To go through it as ever with us is our hockey correspondent Ben Cunningham. Ben, very good evening.
Evening, Rob.
Let's take a look and dive straight into the Mixed Premier League now. 4 fixtures there this weekend, and we'll very quickly sum up what could happen in this particular league. So Bacchus currently top of the table. They could win the title this weekend if they win at Valkyrie. No easy task against the defending champions. If they win and Vikings A were to lose their respective game, meanwhile Valkyries B could also potentially be relegated if things don't go their way. So Ben, take us through what could happen and what you make of those 4 fixtures.
Yeah, so the first one's Bacchus B against Vikings B. That'll be a really good game, that I reckon. But I think Vikings B will come out on top on that one. 12:30 at QE2, we see Valkyries B against Harlequins A. If Valkyries B don't get anything out of this game, they will be relegated, and it's going to be a tough ask against a Harlequins A side that has looked really good all season. And I'm saying that because Harlequins A cap manager is sort of sat right next to me. So Harlequins A win on that one. Again, 12:35, Castown Celts against Vikings A. Castown Celts have been a bogey team for Vikings A in previous years, so could they pull off a shock here this weekend? And then Bacchus against Valkyries. That was a real intense game just a few weeks ago, midweek. Will it be the same again this time? We'll wait and see, but I think it'll be a Bacchus A win.
Yeah, 8-goal thriller in that one last time, which Bacchus A just about beat Valkyries 5-3. What a game that was. Mixed Division 1. Now, the situation here is that leaders Castletown Southerners, there are 3 games, all pushing back at 2:05. We'll go through those with Ben in a moment. Castletown Southerners, top of the pile. They could theoretically win the title if they were to win their game and their nearest challengers, Bacchus C, were to lose. So, Ben, just take us through the trio of matches in Mixed Division 1.
Yes, so the first one is at the NSC, and that's Vikings C against Bacchus C. Big game for Bacchus C, like you say. If they fail to win, they could hand the title to Southerners, who play Vikings D at Castle Rushen High School. Vikings D need to get something out of that game, otherwise it could be relegation for them. And then Valkyries C against Ramsey A at Ramsey Grammar School. That's going to be an interesting game because Valkyries C have been on a really good run recently, but then Ramsey pulled off that great win last weekend against Bacchus C, so it'll be an interesting one on that one. I think Ramsey, though, might just come out on top on it.
And then turning to Mixed Division 2. Now, this is the only league where the title has already been decided. Harlequins B were crowned champions last weekend, but in particular in the battles towards the bottom, the trio fixtures again this weekend, Ben. There's still plenty to play for.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And the first one, 11:05 at Castle Rushen High School, is Bacchus Colts against Castletown Camags. That's going to be a good mid-table battle, but that's going to probably decide who will probably take the runners-up spot. There is only just 1 point between the two sides, so all to play for in that game. 12:35 is the big game, though, at the bottom. Valkyries D against Ramsey Ravens. If Ramsey Ravens win or get a draw, then Valkyries D will be relegated. However, if Valkyries D can beat Ramsey Ravens, it will go into the final weekend next weekend. So a lot on that game. And then Harlequins B, the champions against Castown Cushags. I think you've got to go for a Harlequins B win in that game. They've been phenomenal all season. Only conceded 4 goals. So what an achievement.
And then Mixed Division 3, the final of the senior leagues on Saturday. Now, no relegation, relegation not a consideration, I could say there in Mixed Division 3, but up towards the top, still all to play for. Castletown Cosney currently top of the pile on 12 points up against Harlequins C. Now, Castletown Cosney could win the title if they beat Harlequins C at QE2, and also if their nearest challengers Vikings E lose their respective game as well. 2 games starting at 11:05 and one at 12:35 at King William's College, Ben.
Yeah, the first one, Backers D against Vikings E, that'll be a really good game, I reckon, because Backers D did beat Cosney last weekend by a narrow 2-1 victory. So can they pull off another big win this weekend? We'll see. And then Harlequins against Castown Cosney. Cosney will want to make up for that loss last weekend. However, though, Harlequins will definitely want to make up for their defeat as well last weekend. So both teams will be going at it in this game. And then Castown Carrick against Backers Mixed Bucks. Backers Mixed Bucks, a newly formed side this season, and they've really made a good statement for themselves in this league. I think I'm going to go for a Backers Mixed Bucks win.
Thanks very much, Ben. And 3 games in the mixed under-15s league, all pushing back at 3:35. Castown Sharks versus Valkyries at QE2. Ramsey versus Harlequins at Ramsey Grammar School. And Castown Sabres versus Backers at Castle Rushen High School. Well, we're going to stick with hockey because there's also a big event taking place on Sunday as well, and it concerns one of the Isle of Man's junior national sides. They've all been in respective action over the last couple of weeks in the England Hockey Knockout Tier 2 Championships across the respective age groups. But this one's a little different because this one is taking place on Manx soil, a bit of a rarity over the last couple of years. The Isle of Man Under-18 Girls squad in the England Hockey Under-18 Girls Tier 2 Knockout Championships. They will welcome Chorley at 12:30pm to the NSC in Douglas on Sunday. Delighted to be joined now by the Isle of Man Girls Under-18s manager, Emily Middleton. Emily, very good evening.
Hi, good evening.
So very quickly, obviously we've seen the teams just starting to get the ball rolling in the respective championships this season. So how much is everyone in the squad looking forward to this weekend, and particularly with it being here on the Isle of Man as well?
Yeah, I think the teams are always looking forward to when they go away, but I think a home fixture is really important. I think it's really good for the girls. They can get a really big support down. I think we're all looking forward to it, feeling confident. We had a bye in the first round, so we haven't actually started getting going yet, but we've trained well and we've had a lot more time to prepare. So yeah, feeling confident for this weekend.
And over the last few years, not just yourselves, but other national teams of the different age groups, when you look, as I say, the under-14s and the under-16s as well, there is a lot of travel commitment, there's a lot of financial commitment that has to go into it each season to go to these respective fixtures. What do you think it says about everyone associated with hockey and also the MHA for how much support is put into this to give these young players a chance to take on off-island opposition that they wouldn't get the opportunity to do at other times of year?
Yeah, I think it's really important, the backing that we've got from the parents, the coaches, the MHA. I think I myself have benefited from this when I was a junior. So I think seeing the commitment that everyone's putting in and the hours, and especially all the volunteers that are going on these trips, it's really important, and everyone needs to work together for everything to happen, because it's nearly every single week that the teams are going away, and a lot of hours have been put in behind the scenes that, it's helping us.
Coming to your squad in particular that you're coaching as well going into this weekend, when you look at the squad personnel that you've got available, just how much quality and how much talent is there, do you believe, in Manx hockey and Manx girls hockey as well?
Yeah, lots of talent, I think, from the team. All 6 teams are being represented, which is a really good sign. We've got a lot of talent. We've got people who are in the talent academy squads who go away regularly. We had pretty much everyone available to choose from, which is really helpful. Obviously, with it being a home fixture, sometimes we don't always have everyone available when we're away, but I think we've got a really talented squad. A lot of people have made their senior island debuts in the last couple of weeks. So I think, yeah, we've got a really talented squad, and yeah, looking forward to it on Saturday.
And on a wider picture as well, when you talk about some of those making the move up to the senior squads, this particular season we've now got 2 senior men's teams and 2 senior women's teams as well. What do you think that says about not just the quality of players coming through in, let's take the girls' game for an example, but the amount of young players that are getting involved in the sport and making their way to that level should they want to? Yeah,
I think the under 14, under 16, and under 18 sort of hockey has been a really good progression into the senior island squads. I think prior to that, there wasn't much of a build-up to get into the senior squads. Now there's a clear pathway that you can build up to get into these senior squads, and having the 2 teams, the second team working as a development team for these talented players to get the confidence and get the experience playing at national level and in these competitions, I think has been really important, not just for the girls, but also for the boys. I think, yeah, it's been really positive.
And finally, I'm not going to ask you to make any ultimatums of any kind here, but going into Sunday's game, how confident are you that you can come away with the right result?
Yeah, I think it's always difficult when you're playing a team that you haven't played before. They might be a team that plays together week in, week out if they're in other competitions. Obviously, it's difficult for us because we're all coming from different clubs, but confident. I think we've got the players, we've got the talent, and I think we've had the preparation that we need. It is a knockout game, so it'll go to a shootout. If it's a draw, there's no added time or anything, but yeah, I'm confident, and I think we've got everything we need to get the win.
Excellent, Emily. Thanks very much for joining us, and all the very best for the weekend as well.
Thank you.
That's Emily Middleton, the manager of the Isle of Man girls under-18 squad, taking part in the under-18 girls Tier 2 England Hockey Knockout Championship game at home against Chorley at the NSC in Douglas, 12:30pm on Sunday. Please do show your support, if you can, for one of the Isle of Man's junior national hockey sides. Plenty of them been in action over the last couple of weeks. And in terms of the squad, the Isle of Man girls squad that will be taking on Chorley on Sunday, it is as follows. In goal will be Robin Stones, and then it is Lucy Cartwright, Emily Kirkham, Orla Goddard, Kate Lace, Evie Watterson, Ruby McCubbin, Hannah Nuttall, Macy Krellin, Sophia Cosgrave, Hannah Ashton Forster, Molly Wheeler and Eleanor Cayley as well. So a reminder, that game at 12:30pm on Sunday. And just a very final quick word, Ben. We've got around 30 seconds here or so, but once again, we seem to talk about it every single season as well, but the amount of teams the Isle of Man is able to put out and showcase against off-island opposition, it's great, isn't it?
Oh, it's fantastic. It's great to see, like you say, 2 senior men's, 2 senior ladies, and then all the junior teams being representative. It's absolutely phenomenal, and it gives Manx hockey such a great name. And yeah, just massive good luck to the girls this weekend on home soil. And please, if you can get down and support that game, please do get down and watch, because it'll be an absolute cracker.
Excellent. Well, Ben, thank you very much indeed. Now we're going to quickly turn to a record turnout expected in the Sidquirk Half Marathon this weekend. Dave Griffiths is the local athletics correspondent, explains why he thinks it's such a popular event.
It's going to be the biggest Sidquirk Half Marathon there's ever been in terms of entry, certainly. In recent years, the entry limit has been 400, which has been filled every year, certainly for the last 2 or 3 years. So the organisers took the decision to increase that to 500 this year. And incredibly, it was sold out within 24 hours, which was absolutely astonishing, really. I think there have been a few runners who are unable and walkers who are unable to compete who have deferred, but I think we're still up to about 475 on the entry list. So yeah, it should be amazing on Sunday.
And we saw that last year as well, even with the capacity slightly lower, the demand was incredible. I believe, was it within the space of just a few days that all the spaces were completely booked up? What's making it so popular these days?
I think it's just the general popularity of road running. I think in some ways, road running has almost sort of taken over a little bit from other forms of running. A lot of people go away and do big city marathons, half marathons, 10Ks, and combine that with a bit of a holiday. And I think because of that, I think the half marathon distance is incredibly popular now. People always looking to improve their times and whatever targets they've got, whether it's a time target or just to improve on last time or whatever. And I think it's possibly the social element as well. People like to get out to train together. They've all got a common target. And I think it's a mixture of all those things, really.
Who could we potentially be looking out for in the Sidquirk Half Marathon this year?
Well, I think we've got a lot of really good athletes this year, but I think without a doubt the star athlete is Corin Leeming, who's just in absolutely the form of his life at the moment, and he just continues to get better and better. The interesting point is whether or not he can challenge Ollie Lockley's course record, which was set 3 years ago, 1 hour 6 minutes 18 seconds.
In terms of the female competitors, who are maybe the ones to watch out for?
Well, again, I think we've got a clear favourite in the women's race, and that is Krista Kane, who's a really interesting athlete because she only really took up running seriously probably about 3 years ago, but within a very short space of time of taking up running, she obviously had real ability and real class, and she, a bit like Corin, has just got better and better and better.
And it's also worth pointing out as well that it isn't just the marathon, the half marathon events. We've also got the race walk event going on as well on Sunday.
We have indeed. We've got the walk again over the half marathon distance over the same course, and I think those are going to be really competitive as well. I think in the men's, possibly the favourite would have been Dean Morgan, but unfortunately he's got an injury problem which is going to keep him out. So we're looking probably at the quartet of Gianni Epifani, Callum Gaughan, Simon Gaughan and Neil Wade. And I think in the women's, we've got Lorna Gleave, who done nothing but win the big race walking events over the last couple of years. And I think she's probably the favourite again, although she may well have a challenge from a relatively new competitor in race walking, and that's Rachel Graham, who has really improved over the last, certainly over the last year or so. And she could push Lorna quite close. And then we're also looking at the likes of Marie Jackson, Jane Farquhar, who will be up there as well. But I think both the men's and the women's walks should be competitive on Sunday.
That's all we have time for on Friday Sport Preview this week. Have yourself a wonderful Friday evening, whatever you're doing, and have a wonderful weekend as well. But from me and the team, until next time, it is bye for now.
Manx Radio Sport.